Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. Let's go ahead and check in on Russia's civil war. Yet another cross-border raid into Russia as anti-Putin partisans increase attacks. So on June 1st, the Freedom of Russia Legion and the Russian Volunteer Corps crossed the border back into Russia. So this was on Thursday, June 1st. And immediately the Russian government declared they had repelled the incursion and destroyed all the partisans. But this was 4 days ago, and to the best of my knowledge, as of this morning, the Russian Volunteer Corps and the Freedom of Russia Legion are still inside of Russia, holding territory. And all of this is absurd because 2 weeks ago, the Russian government claimed with these bogus pictures and videos of destroyed American Humvees that they had eliminated all these guys. All these guys are supposed to be dead. But looking at the pictures and videos that the Russian Volunteer Corps is posting, I recognize these faces. It's the same guys from the raid that was conducted 2 weeks ago. And this is causing absolute panic and chaos inside of Russia. So between these two groups, it can't be more than 500 soldiers, but they're conducting these hit-and-run attacks on posts on the border. They're looking to go after valid military targets and to confiscate Russian military equipment, bring it back to Ukraine. And we've got some breaking news here, because if you look at the patch on the shoulder of this soldier, this patch belongs to the Polish Volunteer Corps. These are Polish citizens who have gone to Ukraine to help Ukraine fight Russia. And they participated in this recent border raid with the Russian Volunteer Corps. So this is something new that I kind of need time to process, that there are now Polish citizens, soldiers, crossing the border into Russia to attack Russian territory. The Polish Volunteer Corps has confirmed on their social media pages, and they're now posting pictures and videos of their fighters with the Russian Volunteer Corps in the Belgorod Oblast. So, yeah, this is kind of a step up. This is kind of an escalation. I'm not sure if this is a good thing. I really liked the idea of it just being Russian citizens going back into Russia, but now that there are Polish volunteer fighters, I don't know how they're going to react to this inside of Russia. So 2 weeks ago, they came from this direction towards the village of Graveron, and this time they've swung around to the other side of Kharkiv. Here's the city of Kharkiv. And they crossed the border near this village, Novaya Tavolsanka. And the goal of the Russian Volunteer Corps was to try and capture this city of Shebekino. Now, how big of a city is Shebekino? And it's 40,000 citizens. So we'll go ahead and say this is half the size of Bakhmut. And the Russian Volunteer Corps, with the Freedom of Russia Legion and the Polish Volunteer Corps, they've almost captured a city half the size of Bakhmut in just 4 days. Now, the governor for the Belgorod Oblast has claimed that almost 3,000 Russian civilians have been evacuated from the city of Shebekino. But if this city is almost 40,000 and only 3,000 have been evacuated, then that means that 37,000 Russian civilians are still in this city. And the Russian military is currently indiscriminately firing on this town to attempt to defeat the partisans. So there's video of Russian citizens posting videos of the Russian military firing incendiary rounds on the civilian population. Russia is using chemical weapons on their own city to defeat the partisans? But if there's still tens of thousands of innocent civilians still in the city, Russia doesn't care. Russia doesn't care if their own citizens are killed. Here's a video posted by a Russian civilian showing that his house has been destroyed by shelling. Now, the partisans are not going to waste their limited ammunition blowing up farmhouses. They want to go after valid military targets. So this is the regular Russian military destroying their own city, destroying their own civilian housing. And we've even got social media posts of civilians claiming that the regular Russian military brought to the city to defend them is now looting the town, smashing windows, going into private homes, going into businesses to rob the city. Here's a video of a cell phone store that has been broken into, and all of the cell phones were stolen.
Вот что люди творят в Шебекино. Разбивают технику, все забирают, выкладывают, забирают, выносят.
So this video's been geolocated to a cell phone shop in the center of Shebekino. I don't think the Russian partisans are going to risk their lives stealing cell phones when they're looking for valid military targets to go after. So either locals are using the chaos as an opportunity to steal, or the regular Russian military, made up of poor, mobilized Russian men from other regions, see this as an opportunity to enrich themselves. Here's another video of a resident of Shebekino, a Russian man, claiming his home had been broken into and looted. He had been robbed. So it's either locals taking advantage of the chaos or the regular Russian military robbing their own citizens. There was also video online of a grocery store that had been broken into as well. I'll link everything down below. And here is a resident of Shebekino. This is an 18-year-old college student who filmed this video to express her frustration and panic that the war has come to her hometown. Let me read this for you guys. Good day. Let's talk about the situation in the town of Shebekino. I'm 18 years old and I study in a local college. But because of the constant shelling, studying is impossible. My family doesn't have enough money or opportunities to evacuate outside the city. I found myself under shelling more than once. More than once, I've seen people run out of their houses, literally in their underwear, and ran to shelters, basements, or just simply ducked and covered. I saw mothers shield their kids with their bodies. I saw fear and panic in people's eyes. It's horrible to realize that 7-year-old kids know about these weapons and grad rocket systems. This is the situation damaging the psyche of our children. People's nerves are frayed. Women are practically crying every time. I want to live normally, like the other cities of Russia. Shebekino is part of the Russian Federation. We are asking for help. We don't know who will protect us. Why do we have to use our own resources to evacuate our city, to leave the land on which we were born? Please move the front lines farther away and save the Belgorod Oblast and the town of Shebekino. So this 18-year-old college student has been experiencing war for 4 days and doesn't think it's very fun. But she's not putting 2 and 2 together that the women and children of Ukraine have been experiencing this level of violence and destruction from the Russian military for a year and a half. Here's a post from Sputnik. This is a parody news website. Russians upset by strikes in Belgorod say they just wanted to destroy Ukraine in peace. Why are they being shelled? Why are they being bombed? Why are they suffering when all they wanted to do was destroy Ukraine in peace? She'll get it. I think this college girl will get it eventually, what exactly she's saying. And how are they reacting to the shelling of Shebekino on Kremlin state TV? It's their usual nonsense and bluster. Let me read this for you. We mustn't get used to our territory being hit. If they want a war without rules, we can respond. No, we're not like them. We'll warn civilians so they can leave. We'll give them 6 hours so they'll all leave quickly, and then we'll blow up all those cities to kingdom come. Afterwards, we'll rebuild them from scratch. The only way Russia could destroy an entire city is with a nuclear weapon. And we're a year and a half into this conflict. If it's not apparent to you already, I've made the argument on this channel. Russia is not going to use nuclear weapons. This would alienate the other nuclear powers, such as India and China. They might then participate in sanctions. I also think NATO would directly get involved should Russia use nuclear weapons, which is why they're not going to use them. So let's talk about Prigozhin, because every day this guy is looking for attention, and he's doing a very good job of getting it. Wagner says they're ready to defend Russia's border regions. So the Wagner Group, as of today or tomorrow, will officially 100% be out of the city of Bakhmut. It's the regular Russian military that now has to hold that city. And I think it's very interesting that he wants to take his forces and swing them to the Belgorod region to go after 500 partisans conducting cross-border raids. But you'll notice that Prigozhin has no interest in swinging his forces around to either Kherson or the Zaporizhia front, the location where Ukraine's upcoming counteroffensive most likely will take place. Prigozhin wants an easy assignment, protecting the border of Belgorod, going after these partisans, not on the vanguard of the front lines to defend against Ukraine's oncoming onslaughts. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers are going to directly participate in this counteroffensive, more than likely in this southern region, and Prigozhin already smells failure. He knows it's going to be a rout. He knows that at some point Russia's going to give up on holding Zaporizhia and Kherson and retreat all their forces back to Crimea. They've already built the defense lines and mined everything. Prigozhin is smart enough to know what's coming. And I don't really understand all the dynamics from the various characters in Russia's civil war. It's already begun. We're in the earliest phases of what's going to be a very bloody and devastating civil war for Russia. So the Wagner chief accuses the Kremlin of trying to blow up his men in a public flogging. So what happened is Wagner troops pulling out of the city of Bakhmut. The Russian MOD knew what route they were taking, and they deliberately mined that road to try and blow up, humiliate, kill some of these Wagner mercenaries. The Wagner Group got the intelligence that the road had been mined. They demined the road and evacuated anyways. But Prigozhin's not happy that Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu tried to either kill him or kill some of his soldiers. This is crazy to talk about. And apparently Prigozhin offended the Chechens by saying they're not a real army, that they don't actually do anything, which is true. The Chechens don't actually do anything. They're called the TikTok army because they have freedom of mobility to go anywhere they want. They film themselves firing on and destroying empty buildings just so they can post it on social media. Whereas Prigozhin has actually been fighting a real war. So the Chechen warlord Adam Delkmanov posted a video calling out Prigozhin, saying that if they want to meet face-to-face, they can decide who is the better army. Kind of sounds like something you would say if you were getting ready for a civil war. And Prigozhin, to my knowledge, hasn't responded to the Chechens yet, and instead we got a rare social media post from Dmitry Utkin. Dmitry Utkin is the founder of the Wagner Group, and this guy is a neo-Nazi. Prigozhin, yes, is the face of the Wagner Group. Technically, I think he's in charge. But the real military leader of the Wagner Group is Dmitry Utkin. And this guy is a neo-Nazi, covered in neo-Nazi tattoos. Here's a picture of him 2 people away from Vladimir Putin being recognized in the Kremlin. And Utkin decided to respond to the Chechens. And he said, "We're always ready to talk, like man to man. Moreover, we know each other since the First and Second Wars in Chechnya." So Prigozhin doesn't have any military experience. The guy, I think, robbed a bank and then served time in jail in the 90s. He then was Putin's personal chef in the 2000s. Dmitry Utkin, however, has 30 years military experience in the Russian military. This guy fought in the First and Second Chechen Wars. He actually is a soldier who understands military tactics. So he's the one that responded to the Chechens saying, "We remember you guys from the 90s. Do you remember the last time that happened where I faced off against you guys, the Chechens, in Chechnya?" I can't follow this drama. It's all pretty absurd. Once again, civil war is coming. Well, how about this Ukrainian counteroffensive? Zelensky says Ukraine is ready for counteroffensive, but currently faces a difficult choice. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, the Ukrainian president said he was confident, but added, "We would like to have certain things, but we can't wait for months." So F-16s, I think, are going to arrive by October. Abrams tanks will be on the front lines in September. GLSDB will start arriving at some point this summer. But I think the Ukrainians, having waited 6 months since the Kherson counteroffensive, they feel like they have to move. They feel like they can't wait any longer. And I'm not saying it's going to start on June 6th, but June 6th is a historically important date for the Allies. France, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, the United States. This was D-Day, the Normandy landings. Not saying the counteroffensive is going to start on June 6th, but there would be some history rhyming if that were to occur. In the meantime, they have to use these Storm Shadow cruise missiles to continue going after important high-value military targets. They've been focusing on Mariupol, Verdansk, and Melitopol. And indeed, 2 nights ago, a rail depot was hit with a Storm Shadow just south of the city of Melitopol. And then last night again, a warehouse that the Russians were using was also probably struck with a Storm Shadow missile. And the city that I think's been getting it the hardest the last 2 weeks has been the port city of Verdansk. For Russian logistics, rail is the most important, but second behind that is shipping. And for the last year and a half, the port city of Verdansk has been Russia's gateway to the front lines. Ships have been loaded in Russia and then transported to Verdansk to be unloaded. And the Russians can't stay there anymore. They know this. So I'll link this video down below. A huge mushroom cloud at the port of Verdansk being struck with a storm shadow. And the Russians are getting out. The Russians no longer feel like they can safely transport in men and material to the front lines by using the port city of Verdansk. So already these Storm Shadow missiles have had a huge impact. Another city that's been struck by the Ukrainians is Henichesk. Now, we've not mentioned this city in a very long time, but last November, when the Russians retreated from the regional capital of Kherson, they relocated all of their collaborators and administrative operatives to the port city of Henichesk because it was the only city in Kherson more than 80 kilometers from Ukrainian-controlled territory. So they had to get out of Gimler's range, but now they're in Storm Shadow range, and I'm guessing all of the collaborators helping the Russians no longer feel safe in this city. And we've got an incredible photograph here of a Ukrainian Su-24 spotted carrying 2 Storm Shadow missiles under its wings. So this is a Ukrainian Su-24 painted yellow and blue, and you can see under each wing is a Storm Shadow cruise missile. This is an incredible feat of engineering to figure out how to pair the mechanics and software of NATO equipment to an old Soviet aircraft, but Ukraine and Western technicians found a way to do it, and it's been changing the war dramatically. And Russians know it. And more we're getting public statements from media figures and elected officials preparing their people for failure. So here is a quote from the first deputy chairman of the State Duma. Russia has failed to achieve any of the goals that Putin set forth at the beginning of the special military operation. So here's the quote that he gave. What were our goals officially declared at the beginning of the special military operation? Denazification, demilitarization, neutrality of Ukraine, and protection of the citizens of the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, who suffered all this time. Of which of these points have we achieved results? None of them. Moreover, some of them are no longer meaningful. For example, the neutrality of Ukraine. What is the sense of making this demand? None at the moment. This is the deputy of Putin's United Russia Party saying that Russia, Putin, has achieved none of their objectives after a year and a half of warfare, and in fact made all of them worse. And every day that Russia continues this war, it gets worse for them, they grow weaker, and Ukraine grows stronger. The United States is getting more Gepard air defense vehicles for Ukraine. Jordan originally purchased these from the Netherlands, but they agreed to sell them to the United States, and the United States is going to donate them to Ukraine. These have been really good at shooting down these Shahed drones. And the United States is going to start importing TNT from Japan. Given Japan's pacifist constitution, they have to legally be careful supplying weapons to conflict zones. But because this industrial-grade TNT has non-weapon capabilities or applications, the Japanese government agreed to sell this TNT to the United States, but we all know what the United States is going to do with it. Additionally, Nintendo has ended their online sales of games in Russia. Take that, Russian gamers. You can no longer play the new Zelda Breath of the Wild game. Brutal. Final couple videos I have for you. The first one is of a smartphone that saved the life of a Ukrainian defender.
Вот результат после взрыва МОН-50. Телефон был у человека. Это входное отверстие. А это выходное. Человек 200.
Not what it was designed for, but nonetheless effective. Final story I have for you, unfortunately, is a sad one. And this man right here is Ukrainian football player Mykola Zydkov. And he was playing professionally on a team in Poland up until last fall. Last fall, he decided to leave his football club to join the Ukrainian army in order to defend his country. And 2 days ago, he was killed by the Russians. So the clip I want to share with you is the moment he left his team in Poland, and this is how the football teams decided to send him off. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.